Welcome back, Blue Jay fans, to another episode of the On Fek Circle. I am your Fekless host, the madman across the border, Steve Fek, the Fekless Wonder. You can always reach out to me on Twitter at Fekless Wonder. It's a really exciting show this week. I haven't been on for a while. There were some illnesses, some various things. We're getting ready for the winter meetings. James from the Couch had a terrific preview of the winter meetings, if you will, last night. So Shaun Doyle and Karen Suter and I kind of talked about what the Jays could do, should do, might do. Nothing has happened yet on the Blue Jays front, which of course is concerning. But then, in fairness, I'm sure Ross Atkins knows that the On Fek Circle is on tonight, because this is the show that causes Ross to take all the blinds in his office, close them up, hide in the dark, curl up with his blankie, put his little thumb in his mouth, because he knows that we're going to call him out here on this particular show. But the best thing about this show is that there's even better things available at JFtC.com and with our other programs. Of course, there is the main radio podcast, JFtC on the Couch Radio Podcast. We're 316 episodes in, I believe. Our founder and senior editor, Shaun Doyle, hosts that. He's so kind to allow myself and Karen Suter to join him and talk about your Blue Jays. Speaking of Karen, she's going to be able to really wrap up everything that happens at the winter meetings. Luckily, Karen really knows baseball. She's a terrific baseball mind and a terrific baseball, especially a Blue Jays fan, because at the rate that the Atkins front office is going, there's not going to be a lot to wrap up. She might be able to do it in her transaction sections in about 30 seconds. But luckily, Karen has terrific insights. She'll be with you Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook page. It's always available for download as an audio podcast, as is the On Fek Circle. And of course, the mothership that birthed all these programs, the JFtC on the Couch Radio Podcast, available anywhere you get your finer podcasts. Be sure you check JFtC.com every day, because just because there's no games being played, it does not mean that there's not a lot of interesting things to talk about. And there's such a diverse group of people that write for JFtC.com. We invite you, if you're interested in covering the Blue Jays and joining the JFtC on the Couch team, just send an email to info@JFtC.com. And that allows us to have you join our team. Maybe podcasting is not what you are really into, but you like to break down analytics, or you like to talk about off-season strategies or free agent signings, whatever it would be. We would love for you to join the team. Again, that's info@JFtC.com. Now, usually we have the Shadow GM report, where I assume the role as the duly appointed Shadow General Manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. This week, we're going to kick off with the Shadow GM report, because we may have found an ideal candidate among the JFtC on the Couch fan base, if you will, to replace Ross Atkins. And when you first see our Shadow GM candidate pop up, don't be distracted by his youth. He knows baseball. He loves his Blue Jays, and he's got some great ideas, and we're going to get down to that. Now, I should report that, again, I said I was going to do everything I could to recruit Alex Anthopoulos back to take over the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, for some reason, he has not returned my calls or my emails yet. But then again, he's an actual real general manager, so he's actually making transactions to make the Atlanta Braves better. So I'm going to give him some time after the winter meetings. But Alex, if you wait too long, we've got the ideal candidate. And let me bring in right now Lawson Creaser Fletcher, longtime Lawson, longtime JFtC on the Couch supporter, and we appreciate it, Lawson. Anytime that you watch, but more importantly, a guy that really loves the Toronto Blue Jays. So, Lawson, before we get down into like all the technical things about the winter meetings and what you would like to see done with the roster and all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you live, how you became a Blue Jays fan. I know you've got a great story about a Blue Jays game that you attended. So kind of fill us in on all the details so that all of the people out there know what their next general manager is all about.
All right, so my name is Lawson, and I'm 9 years old, and I live in Kentville, Nova Scotia, Canada, and I love the Blue Jays, and my grandpa is like one of the biggest Blue Jays fans. I don't know,
Nice.
like one of the biggest Blue Jay fans on the world, but he introduced me to baseball when I was young, and I went to a baseball game when I was like 6, probably like 3 years ago.
Okay.
And so we had a tradition when I was little we went to Toronto every second year. Mm-hmm. And then we haven't done that for like the last 4 years because of COVID.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, so this was actually my last time going to Toronto, and we went to a Blue Jays game in probably mid-July, and it was a very fun experience. I think they won the game, and after the game, I got to go in the field and run the bases, and that was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I have a little souvenir from the game. I have a Blue Jay dog stuffy.
Nice.
And I'm hoping we can go back to Toronto soon so that we can watch another Blue Jays game, or maybe even go watch another sport.
Absolutely. I mean, now if it's too bad that I hadn't really met you, because I would have invited you down to Pittsburgh when the Blue Jays played in Pittsburgh. You could have come down on the bus with Karen and Ron Suter, and you could have hung out with us. There were way more Toronto Blue Jay fans at PNC Park when they played the Pirates than there were Pirate fans. And I don't think I've ever seen so many Blue Jay jerseys in a city other than Toronto or outside of Canada as I saw that weekend. It was a lot of fun. But see, those are the memories that I think help you, as a fan, become an even better general manager, because you know the kind of experience that you enjoyed when you were, when you got to watch the Blue Jays, at Rogers Center. Now, do you tend to listen to the games on the radio more, or do you watch it on TV?
I watch games on TV in every sport usually.
Yeah, it's good. See, again, I'm really old. So for me, the radio, I mean, there weren't as many games in any sport really on TV. There was only a couple channels or whatever it would be. So I grew up really listening to the game on the radio. And back then, before they had like FM, you had AM stations. So I could be in my home in New Jersey. I grew up right across the bay from New York City, from Manhattan. But I could listen to games in St. Louis and Chicago and Pittsburgh, in Baltimore. So it was for me, it was kind of cool as a kid to have the radio under my pillow or whatever it is, listening to it on the radio. Now, when you're watching a Blue Jays game, what's the main thing that you watch for in every game? Is it one particular player? Is it, do you like to watch what the pitchers are doing, what the infielders are doing? What is your favorite part of watching a Blue Jays game?
Well, I am a very offensive guy when it comes to baseball, and I love watching the batting and the home runs and the hits and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's probably, and the Blue Jays do get a lot of hits. And
yes, they do, yes.
And they have one of the best hitters in the league with Vladimir Guerrero, and I love watching him, and I love watching the Blue Jays hitting. So that's probably my favorite part.
I mean that's great because you like the offensive part. I mean, that's what the Blue Jays probably do best. Again, I mean, I'm more of a pitching kind of guy, but because I was a pitcher, when I was playing baseball years ago when the dinosaurs were our outfielders, basically chasing the balls. But it's great, and I think a lot of people your age enjoy the offensive aspects, of the game. Now, what about Vladdy's hitting? I mean, obviously he can hit for power. He hits for average many times. Is there anything particular about Vladdy's batting style that you really enjoy?
Well, I really enjoy like he's a very hard hitter, and I love it when he when the ball when he hits the ball and it just goes flying up in the air 400 feet. Like I love watching him, and I love seeing him play offense, and he's a great runner too, and he's very fast, and he can run the bases too. So like he could have a hit that just errors and run a double.
But yeah, great point. I mean, he's a very smart baseball player. Like he can see what's happening in front of him, and he reacts really, really well. So I'm sure some of that comes because his dad was a Hall of Fame player, and quite often, and possibly you'll be able to see Vladdy get inducted into the Hall of Fame if everything keeps going the way it is so far. I mean, I bet you're going to be able to watch, or even maybe go to Cooperstown. That should be something on your bucket list that you should tell your family. I want to go to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. It's a bit of a drive for you guys. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it's amazing. It's an amazing place to go, and you'd be able to, there'll be more Blue Jays overtime added to the Hall of Fame. Okay, so now we're introducing you as a potential future candidate as general manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. And Rachel Kreisner is up. We are all watching upstairs. Lawson, we love you. See, you already have fans. You already have people cheering for you and wanting you to become the new general manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. Now does that idea scare you? And Raul Report, Lawson has a bright future in sports broadcasting, a natural. Now, just so you know, Christian Raul, the Raul Report, he collaborates with myself and with Shaun on various podcasts. So not only could you have a career as the Toronto Blue Jays general manager, you can then parlay that into a fortune doing podcasts about the Blue Jays and baseball and basketball. Because as well, Shaun Doyle and myself and Karen Suter, we make millions doing this podcast. I mean, we try to pretend that it's all just for fun, but it's all for the money. It's all for the cash. So keep that in mind. But again, Christian knows his stuff. Okay, Christian knows what it takes to be there, and it's great that you feel so comfortable and natural, because that's something we don't see from Ross Atkins. We don't see that comfort. We just see a guy that kind of like looks at the camera and just goes blah 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 blah, and then doesn't really ever tell you anything. So now, let's say this was the press conference announcing you as the new general manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. What would be the first? There you go. What would be the first thing that you would tell Blue Jay fans about what you're going to bring to the team?
Well, the first thing that I do is lower the prices on the tickets so that kids could come and watch the games more. So that's something, like, not too much, but just a little bit, so that, like, it's not, like, $150 to come and watch a game. It's instead, like, $65 or something. Mm-hmm. Like, lower the tickets a bit, and that's probably the first thing that I tell all my new players and fans.
Great. And again, and this is specifically for kids or for everybody?
This is for everybody.
Oh, wow. Okay, even better. So, but I mean, that's a great idea, because again, the future of baseball are people like you, Lawson. I mean, I'm an old guy. I mean, I've got maybe 10 years left or something like that. So who cares what I think? But I mean, fans like you, for you to think about your fellow fans, that shows right there. That's going to tell somebody watching you in your press conference that you care about the fans, that the fans are just as important as the players on the field. And of course, you want to win. Of course, you want them to go to the World Series as often as they can. But that shows a lot about you as a person and as a fan, that you care about, you remember what it was like to be a fan in front of that TV. So I commend you for that. That is terrific.
And
Okay.
everybody wants them to go to the World Series and sign Aaron Judge, but most of the time that's not going to happen. But if we just get better and better and better and better, then maybe in 7 years we might be one of the best teams in the league, the way that we're going right now.
That, and another excellent point. Again, it's still a building process. I mean, as overexcited as I get, on this show sometimes, or that we get on the podcast about, we want to win the World Series now. We do understand that ultimately only 2 teams go to the World Series every year.
Yeah.
But if you're getting better every year and you're adding the right players every year. Sorry, Steve, outfielder Cody Bellinger and the Chicago Cubs are in agreement on a 1-year, $17.5 million contract. What do you think about that, Lawson? Do you think the Blue Jays missed out on getting a really good outfielder in Cody Bellinger?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of my things, is them getting an outfielder.
I am going to go into detail here about that in just a little bit. But again, this is why we have to band together as fans. And then another one here. You are doing great, Lawson. You have a bright future. I might just leave the room and I'll just let you talk the rest of the way, because obviously, I mean, you're engaging the audience and everything like that. But that's why I wanted to have you on. It's great that people are chiming in, but I want people to get to know you as a Blue Jay fan. I only know you from a couple of comments here and there, but it's obvious that you really love the team and you have some ideas about how to get those Blue Jays to the World Series, maybe in less than 7 years. So, and one thing I want to touch on, you brought off before we came on the air, was I know that you really liked the Blue Jays draft last year. In particular, their number 1 draft pick, Brandon Barrero, a college pitcher. What about Barrero do you like?
I think he has a very bright future, and he's a very good pitcher, and I think that they could give him some playing time this season, and I think that he can do a lot, and I hope that he can do a lot, and I hope that he wins them some games, and hopefully for the first couple games of the season they'll put him in for more, and then we'll get to really see what he's made of. But I think he's going to be a great pitcher, and I think he's a very strong pitcher, and he's somebody that's going to do very well for them, I think.
He reminds me a lot of Alek Manoah. I know that you've watched the show sometimes, and I talk about how I used to go down West Virginia University, where he played his college baseball, is only about an hour south of me here in Pittsburgh, where I live and do the show from. And he reminds me a lot, as far as he's very tough, and he's very focused and he's intense and he loves playing baseball. So now for you, okay, Brendan Barrero would really be in his first full season of baseball. You would have no problem bringing younger pitchers like Barrero or Ricky Tiedemann, who I believe is 20. He'll be 21 during the season. If they could really help the team now, you'd be all in it. You'd say, come on up, bring these young talent up. If the veteran people aren't doing it, let's let the kids do it. So you believe in that?
Yeah, and Alex Manoah is already one of the best pitchers in the league, and to have 2 of him is it's got to be one of the best pitching rotations in the league.
I love it. I love the fact that in your heart what you think would work for the team, and that you would be, because some people would criticize you and say, oh, but he's only 19, or Ricky Tiedemann's only 20 or 21. We can't bring him up. But that's great that you see the talent that these guys would have. And you're like, I don't want to play by the rules. I want the best players on the field. at any given time. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
That's your approach? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now, this year for the first time, there's a draft lottery.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to happen tomorrow night. So just
It's
because
tonight, I think.
is it tonight?
Yeah, I think
Wow.
it's at 8:30 it starts.
Oh wow! I didn't realize that. I'll have to
Yeah.
make sure I record that. So now, do you like that idea where the worst team doesn't automatically get the first draft pick, or do you like this lottery option where it tells teams you just can't be bad on purpose? You're not going to be guaranteed that first pick. How do you feel about that?
Well, I like it, but I don't like it. Like basketball, I'm a big basketball fan, and I hate having like football. The worst team gets the first pick, and I like that. But in basketball, they do whatever the 14 pick lottery, and it's good some years, like this year where there's a great prospect and people are tanking for him. So that's great to know that like you're not guaranteed to get the first pick. But honestly, I'd rather have the worst teams get better. Like if you're the worst team, you shouldn't have a chance at getting like the 7th pick in the draft. I don't think that's fair. I think if you're the worst team, you should have the first pick, and if you won the World Series, you should have the 30th pick. I think that's how it should work. I don't really like the lottery.
But I think football. You're right. Baseball. I don't know whether basketball and hockey did that because of contracts. But I'm with you. I mean, if you have a bad season, I mean, you might as well kind of get the rewards for some of that. So that's interesting. And well, again, the Blue Jays won't be in the lottery. Lawson, do you think the Blue Jays will win the World Series this year? And that's from Joe.
Well, I hope from the bottom of my heart, but I don't think it's this year. That's my honest opinion.
Okay. Well, and this is a good segue into some of the things that you would do. Like if you right now, because obviously Ross Atkins isn't doing anything. So let's say we got you hired as the Toronto Blue Jay GM tonight, and we flew you to San Diego, and you got there and you had the chance to make a trade or sign a player. What would be the first thing you would do? Either the first player or the first position you would want to improve on?
Well, I think they do really need an outfielder, and I think maybe some first base depth, and obviously we're gonna sign what's his name? Forget his name. Mr. 62 home runs for $1. Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge. Yeah.
$1.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Aaron Judge isn't going to sign for $1. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Ross Atkins thinks that, but I mean, I know you're only like half joking there. But so when people tell you, "Oh, the Blue Jays need to sign Aaron Judge," you don't necessarily think that's the best way.
They do, but I was looking at a list earlier, and it was like top 30 teams for Aaron Judge to sign to, and the Blue Jays were up there. I think they were like 7th, but honestly, I don't even really know if I want Aaron Judge on the Blue Jays. Like, of course I do, but at the same time, I don't.
Well, again, Aaron Judge, they already have power hitters. They already have Vladdy, and Bo can hit for power, and Matt Chapman. So really, maybe, like I know for me, I want them to get a good defensive center fielder. So now, as far as outfielders go, we know that Cody Bellinger just got signed because Ross Atkins is watching SpongeBob or something in his hotel room. He's not doing anything like he's supposed to. So of the outfielders left, and we'll exclude Aaron Judge for now, what outfielder do you think the Blue Jays need to go after and sign?
There's so many of them. Like, I think honestly at this point, I think you go for like not like really old, but like an older center fielder that knows a bit more, that maybe you draft a center fielder in the draft or an outfielder, and he can kind of start for this season, or not even start, maybe maybe be the backup and kind of like mentor these younger guys that they may get in the draft. But I don't really think anybody in particular, but that's kind of what I would want for the Blue Jays right now.
But interesting, because again, I think a veteran presence, I think that's very important. And it's not just because I'm old. It's because I really think you have to have people with experience. Because people forget that Vladdy and Kevin Biggio and Bo Bichette, even Alek Manoah, these are young guys. They're still relatively young. So to have those veterans around, like Kevin Gausman and Jose Barrios are veterans, and Hyun-Jin Ryu, he and Alek Manoah got pretty close friends. Those are veterans that have been there that can tell Alek, hey, look, this guy's going to do that or whatever. So I'm going to throw some names out for you in the outfield. And the name that we talked about most on the podcast last night and so far this year has been Brandon Nimmo, who used to play for the Mets. What do you think about Brandon Nimmo?
Well, when I was researching, I was researching players for them that they could look at, and he was one of the top guys, and I was looking at him, and I think he kind of fits the categories that we're looking for, and I think that we could get, like, yes, I do think that's that would be a good pickup.
Okay, and now you know that he would cost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. To do that, because again, he's earned it. He's played. He's gone through his arbitration and everything. So you're absolutely okay with the Blue Jays spending whatever it takes to get the best players for out in the field. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and maybe even like they have a lot of depth in catcher. Maybe they could do a sign-in trade and like dump a couple players off.
Now that's interesting in that you would say, okay, we sign somebody for big money, but then move some contracts. Like Danny Jansen's probably going to earn the most money of the catchers because he's been around longer. So you could then save a little bit in salary to kind of make up for the fact that you're paying the money for Brandon Nimmo. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, a name that keeps coming up today and in the last couple of days, he just asked for a trade, is a guy who plays here in Pittsburgh. His name is Brian Reynolds. And he has a bad mustache like me. But other than that, he's a really good outfielder. He's a switch hitter. He's a good base runner. Even though that the analytics say he's not a good outfielder, I watch him every day. And he's a very good outfielder.
And I was also looking at him as one of those players that they could look at because I seen that he requested a trade. And I think that he was one of those players that can play base, hit, pitch, outfield. He's one of those players that can go all around the field and do a lot of stuff, and I think that's also a player that the Blue Jays need. So that's also a good player that they could pick up.
Yeah. Okay. Now you mentioned first base depth. Now, do you think it would help Vladdy to not play first base as much and maybe be the DH? So it kind of saves the wear and tear on his body. Do you think that would be a good move?
Actually, yes. I do think that putting him at the designating hitter would be a better decision. I get he's super fast, but when he hits those home runs and those doubles and those singles, he can do his running when he's hitting home runs. So I think that would actually be a better decision than keeping him at the starting first base.
I'm with you. I mean, I'm worried about him from an injury standpoint, playing every day as a first baseman. Now, we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask you one question, actually two questions. There was a lot of talk about when Charlie Montoyo was the manager that the front office kind of told him what to do. And with John Schneider now, it looks like he's a little bit more independent and has a little bit more to say. If you were the general manager, would you be sending down lineups and all this information down to your manager? Or would you let your manager just manage the game and then talk after the game about something that you could change?
It does depend because if I had a great idea about what I want to do, I definitely tell him. But if I'm like I have an idea that I think is good, but it's like, do I tell him now or do I tell him later when we really need this player, this position, or this thing or whatever? So I think the answer is maybe.
Man, what it's going to depend on the situation. I like how you said if it's something that I really felt strongly about, then I'm going to come down. But if not, let's see how it plays. I love that. I love that confidence that you have. That because obviously, I mean, you love baseball. And you're going to continue to learn more about baseball. Everybody learn, even the players learn every game. They're learning something. But the fact you had that kind of confidence, I love that because that shows that you wouldn't be afraid to make decisions once we get you into the general manager job. I know, age wise, you can't even sign your own contracts. We'd have to figure ways out around that or whatever. But this has been so much fun. I just have one other question for you. If there was one Blue Jays player that starts most games, either as a position player or as a pitcher, if you had to pick one player that's on the team now that you would be willing to trade to get better, either whether it be with minor league prospects or for the major league roster, if there's one player that you would trade, who would that player be?
Well, this is a hard question because I don't even know if I would trade a starter for anybody right now because I don't think that it's worth it to trade any starters because the team is one of the youngest teams in the league. And I think that all the starters need more time. And I think that I'd rather trade a bunch of depth than any of the starters.
What a great answer. So you see, Blue Jay fans, there is hope for the future. If we can just weather the Ross Atkins storms that are happening, we've got people like Lawson Cracer Fletcher that can step in to serve. He's the shadow general manager tonight, but I have a feeling he's going to be a factor in the Blue Jays' future going forward. Lawson, I cannot tell you how excited I was to have you on and how much I really enjoyed that. Anything else that you want to say to the fans out there before we close out the show tonight?
I just wanted to say thank you, and I've been really excited to be on this show. And you would know what I'm about to say because you're in the fantasy football. And I just want to put this out here that my mom is in last place.
Well, my team is not doing much better, so I really can't say too much about that. But I think that's a great way to close the show. Your mom's probably never going to talk to me again, but that's okay. That's fine. We got it out there, and what's going on there. Maybe next year you can join us in our fantasy baseball or football. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'd love to have you.
Well, Lawson, I was thinking that I could join the football this year and that I could help my mom drafting her team, but when you guys were doing the draft, she slept in. So and she started Trevor Lawrence over Jalen Hurts last week. So
well, that's the thing about fantasy. When you play fantasy sports, it seems whatever you think is the right answer, it's most times it doesn't work out. Ask Shaun. I mean, Shaun and I do a lot of fantasy sports, and it just works out that way. But again, this has been an honor and a pleasure. Not only did I shave today for the show, I wore a tie today for the show. That's how important it was to get to meet you and to have you on the show. You had some great ideas. You gave Blue Jay fans a lot of hope for the future. And I hope we can have you back on real, real soon.
Well, thank you for letting me be on this show. And it was very, very fun. And when I'm the GM of the Blue Jays, I'm going to use all these ideas.
And that's great because that means we're going to be in the World Series soon. Blue Jay fans, thanks as always for tuning in to the On Fek Circle. We're here during the offseason every other Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Coming up later this week, we've got Karen Suter, Sunny Side of the Dome. Hopefully, it'll be sunnier for Karen. She's had a tough couple of weeks with the Teoscar Hernandez trade and all of that. Of course, it's the Jason McCall Radio Podcast 300 Bill, I cannot tell you what an honor that it is for me to be part of that. And every day, go to JFtC.com, because luckily for you, there are a lot smarter people that write articles for James from the Couch than what I give you on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. I'm the Fekless Wonder, Steve Fek. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, and thank you for helping make this such a special show with Lawson Creaser Fletcher, our Shadow General Manager of the Week. I'll talk to you in 2 weeks, and I'll see you on the podcast next week.